protesting the United States. And you couple that with anti-Semitism on the rise at college campuses as a result of the tension overseas, and we can bring in our next guest, Jeffrey Lachs, professor of law at the City University of New York, and we're joined again by retired U.S. Navy Captain Armand Kurdi. And gentlemen, thank you both. I appreciate that. Jeffrey, you say that students are afraid to go to classes on several campuses, and you look at the pictures we're seeing of the protests, and you look at what we've seen on college campuses in the past 10 days, and that is totally understandable.
And the students are facing scary things similar to what the pictures you're showing are, because, you know, I founded a group called Safe CUNY that protects Jews on college campuses throughout CUNY, and I got so many calls from parents, from students, and the parents saying, I'm not sending my kids to school because there were these pro-Hamas rallies scheduled outside of Brooklyn College, for example. So in order to enter the campus, you had to walk through this rally that was protesting Israel after having been massacred and having their women raped and babies burned. And so you have to walk through these, you know, we had parents calling us, we had students calling us, and on Brooklyn College also, there was a vigil, Trace, for some of the victims in the massacre against Israel, and they were protested by pro-Hamas groups on the campus. The vigil was protested, so you can understand why students are horrified and scared.
And here's part of the reason you can understand that, because this is Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, far-left Congresswoman, who tweeted this. This happened just after the hospital bombing, quoting, Israel just bombed the Baptist hospital, killing 500 Palestinians, doctors, children's patients, just like that. At POTUS, talking about President Biden, this is what happens when you refuse to facilitate a ceasefire and help de-escalate. Your war and destruction-only approach has opened my eyes, and many Palestinian Americans and Muslim Americans like me, we will remember where you stood. So she is literally blaming Israel with zero evidence and putting this all on the back of her president, of the Democratic president. And you wonder, because the same thing is happening at media organizations. You see this on MSNBC. The New York Times came out very quick to point fingers on this. It happens a lot, and you wonder why the hatred is fomented.
Well, you've got Cori Bush saying, let's call for an immediate end to military aid to Israel right after 600 civilians were massacred. You had Ilhan Omar with a very nice long resume of anti-Semitic tweets calling this a war crime. Tell me, has Congresswoman Tlaib even once ever tweeted or mentioned anything that Hamas or these terrorists are using her own people as human shields, right, and for their own protection as these cowards? No, they haven't done it. They're giving aid and succor to the enemy. It is absolutely dereliction of duty, and it shows they're unfit for office.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, to you, the Harvard Arab Alumni Association statement asking for money for students who supported the attack on Israel, it goes on to say they may require legal counsel, health care, mental health support, financial aid, or mentorship to navigate these turbulent and uncertain times. They are now fundraising on their anti-Semitism.
Absolutely horrific. And let me just remind people, and I hope it gets recorded in the history books, that the protests against Israel began before Israel ever even retaliated. They began after Israelis were massacred. And there's a lot of people on your network who are rightfully arguing that these students that you're talking about shouldn't only not get money, they shouldn't get jobs after signing these letters. I would actually take it a step further. I would say these colleges should consider not granting them degrees. Cut it off earlier than that. Maybe they didn't satisfy a civic engagement requirement because of their incivility. So I think it's horrifying, and I think we need to put an end to it and take some major steps to stop this.
And I think last word to you, Armand, because the whole concept here is maybe everybody needs to take a step back and say, we need to be able to look at this, right, without all these biases, and look at the evidence that is being presented to you instead of just this propaganda and ideological twist.
Well, Trace, you and I can agree on that quite strongly. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that they don't want to agree. And can you really blame these students for their actions, considering the leadership of these universities and the faculty that have indoctrinated them? Yeah. Thank heavens we're actually seeing maybe some of these faculty pushing back and using some pretty strong words, some words that I would like to see come out of our government, which we're not seeing.
But yes, I mean, many of these students, I would say to your question, Armand, are 21, 23, 25, 27 graduate students. Yes, I would blame them as well for this. Yeah. Thank you so much. Armand, Jeffrey, thank you both. Meantime, Congressman Jim Jordan